Hi, the introverted cynist here. Today, I am going to explain the 2014 Chinese mystery thriller film called The Great Hypnotist. Warning, spoilers ahead. Kick back and take care. The movie begins with a mysterious woman probing through a glass window in an abandoned building, looking for a mother and a child. The woman now spots them and tries to get in through the door, but gets locked in, and they run away, looking for a place to hide. Meanwhile, the woman breaks in and walks towards the hallway. The mother, now nervously staying behind the door, encounters a man inside. She then asks for help, saying that there is a woman outside trying to rob her daughter. He optimistically assures that they are safe with him and starts reading the newspaper. He now starts reading an article about an old woman and her grandchild being pursued by a violent man, and a few security guards scared him off. It was later revealed that the violent man turned out to be the child's father, and the so-called grandmother was the kidnapper, while sternly looking at the mother. The mother, now puzzled, takes out a wallet with her photo with the child, proving that the child belongs to her. The man then instructs her to look closely at the picture. The woman, now bewildered, stares at the photo, only to find out that the photo of the woman with the child is not her, but it was the woman in the hallway. The man advises her to read an article about a woman who accidentally ran over her child and reveals that the event occurred 20 years ago and says that the woman in the article is her. The man then calmly escorts them outside, witnessing her younger self, and advises the old mother to let go of the child from her memory, as she has forgiven her, and let her younger self bear the ordeal. The old mother, with a heavy heart, apologizes and lets her child leave, watching them transcend. The man then counts 1, 2, 3, and snaps, waking her from a deep trance. It was then revealed to be a hypnotic session in an office for a troubled woman who couldn't let go of her past and now thanks the doctor, Zhu, for making her find solace. The scene then shifts to a hall full of students, revealing the best thing in hypnotherapy is that it allows patients forget the doctor during therapy, which then helps the treatment. Zhu then informs that the subject was in a trance and now explains the concept of waking up hypnosis. While the crowd becomes inquisitive, Zhu explains that the concept is simple and playfully says he could have already put the crowd into a trance as they entered the hall and tries to snap at them. But he then directs them to look at the screen and guess the color. The color then shifts to red and green, and then both the colors together, and instructs them to identify what they feel when they see this pattern. One of the students says McDonald's, which was then revealed to be the right answer. He then explains studies have shown most of the time, most people receive waking suggestion from advertisements, and adds waking suggestion is the basis of waking up hypnosis. Meanwhile, an old woman enters the room, watching Zhu's lecture. One of the students now brings into his attention about the controversy of not receiving the patient's consent when using this therapy. Zhu then explains over 1 million people die from suicide, and their problem is they don't know how to talk about their agony. Zhu reminds his students that he is a psychiatrist and will use any method to cure his patient's ailment, concluding the presentation. Outside, he is met with his old mentor, Professor Fang, and hands him a file of a peculiar patient named Ren Xiaoyan, who was adopted by a Hong Kong couple at a local orphanage when she was 6 and claims she can see ghosts. Zhu agrees to treat Ren, despite learning from his colleague, Dr. Shen Li, who once treated her, that there is something disturbing about her. The following evening, Zhu's assistant enters his office, then suddenly hears a loud thud on the roof due to a renovation, and inquires about it with his assistant. The assistant then replies the carpenter will complete it soon and hand him a coffee and leaves before handing him Ren's file. Ren, now waiting outside, gets fixated by a minor shrieking sound of a Big Ben clock. Zhu, now watching her from behind, mentions he will get it fixed tomorrow. She then notices the clock is slower by few minutes and positions the long hand properly. They get acquainted and start the session. Just then, he again hears the same loud noise from above and then informed his assistant to tell the worker to stop the renovation as it is disturbing his work. He then, feeling suspicious, checks Ren's file again and calls his friend's husband, Mo, who is working in child services, to get specifics about Ren. Afterwards, Zhu joins Ren and resumes the session. When asked to talk about her ghost story, Ren becomes apprehensive as Zhu wouldn't believe her. Zhu composes himself and gets Ren a glass of water and informs her that he does not believe in ghosts and persuades her to unfold her story and starts to take down notes. Ren says, while sleeping one night, she heard sounds of marbles dropping and rolling on the floor, which made her inspect by flashing a torch below her bed, where she suddenly saw Grandma Lee, a neighbor below her flat, peeping through a secret chamber under her bed and disappears. She then quickly goes down to her flat and then learns that she died in the morning due to a hemorrhage. The son now accuses a woman named Morn to have hidden the family deed and could not find it anywhere. Before leaving, Ren slowly hears whispers of Grandma Lee saying the deed is kept hidden in the air vent on the roof, and after inspecting, they find the deed, making Ren confused. Zhu becomes dubious and says it could be a dream or a coincidence and tries to dismiss it. She now shares her second story that happened in a bus at night on her birthday. While traveling in a bus alone, the bus stopped abruptly due to a technical issue. She says to the driver to drop her off as her house is nearby. The driver gets flabbergasted when he sees Ren and then gets hold of a rosary chain and drops her off. While walking, Ren meets a girl drawing on the floor at that point of hour. Ren, now concerned, asks if she is lost and where her parents are. Just then, the driver comes back with the bus fixed to drop her to her destination. Ren, after refusing, looks around for the girl, but she vanished and is seen on the bus. Ren starts to pursue the bus, but the girl now points down to the number plate of the bus. Along the way, she sees several posters of the same girl who has been murdered in a hit-and-run case. Later she says that she anonymously shared the number plate to the police, giving them a clue to catch the murderer, and proves to Zhu by showing an article in the newspaper. Zhu now contemptuously says he is unsure if she made up the story after reading the news article and asks for evidence if she was the one who made the call to the police. Ren says she used a public phone and gets discouraged when Zhu says the story works with or without the ghost. Eventually, Zhu says Ren has an uneven life with her foster parents and asks Ren about her childhood with her biological parents. Ren, with much hesitation, recollects her events with them. She says her biological parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ren, once took her to an amusement park and abandoned her by keeping a suicide letter in her pocket because her parents owed a lot of money. Later, she was taken to a foster home and says she will always remember the red flowers on the ground and the cotton fibers floating in the air. Zhu asks which city she lived, to which she says Nandu City, in the south. Zhu now jots down and zeroes into these details and finds it dicey to have her parents to abandon her all the way to the north, where the amusement park is present, and becomes even more suspicious when he makes a call in the restroom with Mo, revealing that she is lying about the red flowers and the cotton fibers in the north, but in actuality, blooms in the south, and conceals this information from Ren. Zhu now sincerely asks Ren if she wants the real truth or just a truth she believes in, and then consents her to get hypnotherapy. Zhu informs her to relax and not to be nervous. He now slowly swings his watch from left to right and starts counting 1, 2 and then drops the watch. When she tried to pick the watch, Zhu counts 3 and immediately she falls into deep trance. Ren, now dazed, walks through a chain of events that happened in her life and gets guided by Zhu. During the session, Zhu gets a document from Mo and tries to demystify the conundrum and heads to the office. Zhu now reveals that Mr. and Mrs. Ren were not her biological parents, but was her first foster parents and was actually abandoned 2 times. Zhu now explains Ren was first abandoned by her unknown biological parents at the age of 2 at an orphanage in South. It was from there where she actually experienced the grounded red flowers and the floating cotton fibers till the age of 6. She then, from South Orphanage, gets adopted by her first foster parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ren, and brings her to North. After abandoning her in the park at the age of 6, she was then fostered in a North orphanage because Mrs. Ren was pregnant to a son. Zhu then says it was illegal to abandon an adopted child, hence, they prepared the suicide note and reveals that they are still alive. Ren, now in disbelief, tries to dismiss Zhu's theory, but he presents her adoption certificate with the names Mr. and Mrs. Ren present on the document. However, Zhu realizes she was not actually lying, but suppressed her darkest memories by making stories up subconsciously, which made the 2 adoption stories overlap, and says her current foster parents never gave up on her all these years. Zhu then says, all the ghost stories Ren said about the glass marbles and the abandoned girl was based on her life and was not real. Zhu then suddenly asks about her fiancé, to which she became nervous. He said Ren has been touching her middle finger 6 times from the moment she walked in till now and inquires about him. But Ren gets anxious and leaves without giving an answer. It was then exposed that she was in trance and was never woken up and starts giving details on her fiancé. One day, in the orphanage, Ren meets a volunteer who was an orphan like Ren. They both started liking each other and he proposed and then later had an accident and died, and further, she is not able to remember anything else. Later, Ren was woken up. A game of cat and mouse then ensues when Ren mysteriously confesses to Zhu that she has been seeing 2 people, a man and a woman, in his chambers since she arrived and starts describing about their face and looks. Zhu, now agitated, says he regrets taking her case and informs Ren that the session is over and tries to flee. Ren slyly spills a glass of water towards Zhu, making him disturbed. She informs the man and the woman are standing next to them and they look like they have climbed out from the water, and she tries to instigate a reply from an unbalanced Zhu by calling him the name Captain, which was called by his girlfriend. Zhu, now astonished, advises Ren not to call him that name. After forcefully persuading Zhu, he then opens up about his past. The environment of the room slowly changes and starts raining. He reveals, after a night out at the bar with his best friend and girlfriend, Zhu, while driving, accidentally falls asleep and drives the car into the river, resulting in the death of his lover and best friend, who was in the car. All these years, he has been blaming himself for their death. He was still alienated, even after begging for forgiveness in front of her family at the funeral. After a while of discussion, Ren tells him that the ghost of his best friend has forgiven him, and the ghost of his girlfriend says she will never stop loving him, and they want him to remember their forgiveness and find solace as he wakes up. Heartbroken and relieved, Zhu now says he believes in ghosts and requests Ren to give a message to his girlfriend that he will always love her, simultaneously pausing the rain. Ren now composes herself and slowly walks to Zhu and snaps, waking him up. Zhu crashes on the floor as his assistant and the nurse runs to take care of him. Ren then goes to the floor above, where she is met by Zhu's parents, Dr. Fang and his colleague Dr. Shen Li. It was then surprisingly exposed that Ren is not a random patient, but a brilliant psychiatric doctor specialized in waking up hypnosis who studied under Professor Fang. Professor Fang carefully crafted this plan, selecting her best student for this operation. Fang then says, extreme situations require extreme measures. The camera then pans to Zhu's past. The accident made Zhu to acquire extreme post-traumatic syndrome, which is acutely difficult to cure, and he started to hurt himself, which made his parents, friends and colleagues worry. He even tried hypnotizing himself to find solace and to convince others that he is well. He meets Fang to get her approval that he is fit to practice. While signing, she asks with concern if he can deal with himself for the rest of his life. Fang suggested the candidate to perform this controversial procedure must be a stranger and a harmless patient because, being a highly skilled psychiatrist himself and trained professionally, normal treatment won't do no good because he knows the procedure too well. Even though they both were classmates and know each other very well, due to Ren being a scholar in waking up hypnosis, she can effortlessly induct a patient without them knowing. But due to Zhu being a master in his craft and for the story to be believable, Ren says to Fang she has a secret that she hasn't shared to anyone, which was that she was an orphan and was adopted 2 times. She actually added a solid truth to the ghost story for the procedure to have a solid ground. The scene then shifts to their first encounter. Ren, while pretending to be fixated with the clock, moved the long hand meticulously, slowly counting 1, 2, 3, hypnotizing Zhu without him knowing. Ren now has put Zhu in trance before even stepping into the office. Zhu's assistant drugged him in the coffee to make him weaker to the procedure and concealed Ren's real identity by presenting a fake one, which was the icing on the cake. The scene shifts, with the nurse informing that Zhu is awake. Everyone except Ren goes to see him, and in a flashback, it is shockingly revealed Zhu's best friend, who was killed in the car accident, was Ren's fiancé. Professor Fang tells Ren that she must also let it go. Ren and Zhu is now shown having a moment together where Zhu confesses that he did not want to be cured and nobody can forgive him. Ren says he is right, but also adds he can forgive himself and move on, concluding the movie. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment if you enjoyed. and subscribe for more videos.